So that's my rant in terms of what I believe are some design features in this car and that I think Toyota should get right, which is an excellent segue into the next section of my discussion around modifications. So that's a perfect segue into modifications on this vehicle. And I have been asked, well, what are my top 5 mods on the Cruiser that I would recommend to somebody? And before answering that question, let's tease out the types of mods that we're talking about here. So there are certain things I think that you need to do to these cars regardless. And not just a 200 series Cruiser, but any car that you buy off the showroom floor. They're a compromise. You know, you're not going to be fitted with proper off-road tires. The suspension's going to be a compromise between highway and off-road work. So if you want to build yourself a touring vehicle, those mods have to happen regardless. So parking those things that have to happen regardless aside, what are the top 5 mods that I recommend for this particular car? And the first modification that I would recommend is a lockup kit. I talked about the problem with these transmissions and the fact that they don't lock into 6 very well and that the torque converter flares. A lockup kit will eliminate that problem altogether. There are many companies that supply these kits. Richards Auto, Stock Lock, for example. This isn't a comparison between different companies. This is simply saying, get yourself a lockup kit. And what that lockup kit will do is lock the torque converter once it gets over a certain speed and prevent it from slipping and flaring up and creating a lot of heat. Now my particular lockup kit has got 2 speeds. It's got a low speed lockup and a high speed lockup, and the high speed lockup engages somewhere around that 80 kilometers an hour. So as soon as you get over 80 kilometers an hour, the torque converter locks up and you can see the temperature peeling out of the automatic transmission. I've got a gauge on the dash that records ATFs, and you can lose 10 degrees over a 30-second period once that torque converter is locked up. That's a massive, massive difference. The other thing that torque converter lockup kit allows you to do is be able to hold the gears at highway speeds. So 5th gear, 6th gear with the torque converter locked, it stays in that gear and it'll remain locked in that gear regardless of whether you're running up a hill or not. That's a fantastic outcome. Modification number 2, designed to address that airbox issue that I talked about in my prior video. And there's a number of ways that you can address that airbox issue. For me, I've gone down the UniFilter route, which is a foam air filter impregnated with oil, and that oil captures the dust, and I have not had any dust, any visible dust on the clean air side of the filter. In fact, I'll throw a link in the description below to a video that we shot heading out to Mount Dare, and I was driving through bull dust that was coming up over the bonnet in waves. And that is probably the most extreme dusty condition that I've been in. That evening, pulled up, took the filter out of the car, and there was not a skerrick of dust on the clean air side. So that's fantastic. Another solution that I've seen, and I can't comment on the success of that solution or not, is a complete replacement of the airbox in totality. The third mod that I've done to this car and that I would recommend is address the top mount intercooler. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. The issue, of course, isn't so much the intercooler. It works all right. It's the ductwork that goes in. It's quite restrictive, and your intercooler just doesn't work as efficiently as it could. Now I've addressed that by putting a bonnet scoop on the car. That allows a lot more air to flow through the intercooler, and I'm seeing a reduction of anywhere between 7 and 10 degrees Celsius in the charge air temperatures with the bonnet scoop on compared to no bonnet scoop. That's a massive difference. 2 other solutions that I've seen and I've got no experience with. One is mounting some fans on the intercooler so it actually pushes the air through the intercooler, and secondly, a front mount intercooler, taking it from the top of the engine and mounting it in front of the radiator. The 4th modification that I've done to this car that I would recommend is a power up, and there's 2 ways that you can do that. You can go with a chip or you can go with an ECU remap. Now I've gone with a chip. I've got the Unichip Q4, which is one of these fully programmable systems, and it probably as closely as possible mirrors an ECU remap. Now I'm not going to suggest one is better than the other. I don't have any experience with the ECU remap, but what I can say with this particular chip, is the power up is phenomenal, and the amount of torque that I've got now is unbelievable. It's sitting up over 850 newton meters of torque now, and about 171 kilowatts, I think. And maybe 4B in terms of modification that goes along with that power up is a new exhaust. I've got a Taipan exhaust system fitted to it now, which is 3-inch basically from the turbos back, and it breathes a heck of a lot easier, one, which is great, so you got some power increases because of that. But secondly, it absolutely sounds amazing when you jump on the loud pedal. And here's an example of exactly what I'm talking about. So turn the volume up. Modification number 5 for me, and it's a pretty important one, diff locks. I've got ARB air lockers on the front and rear of this car, and that just allows me to get to areas a lot easier than I would without the diff locks. You probably could get there without diff locks in a lot of instances, but you end up having to flog the car a little bit more. You have to take the bumps and the off-road terrain with a little bit more momentum to get you through. With diff locks, you can crawl through, and you just minimize the amount or the potential damage that you have to the vehicle. And I'll throw a bonus number 6 modification in there just because I love you guys so much. For me, long range fuel tank. I've got 2 tanks on board now, a total of 270 odd liters. At 10 liters per 100K, that would get you 2,700 kilometer range. On the highway, I'm doing about 1,300 liters per 100K, so you do the math in terms of range. In an off-road situation where you might be doing 25 liters per 100K, flogging through the Simpson Desert, for example, you're going to get a range up over 1,000 kilometers, which will allow you to easily go across the Simpson Desert to Dalhousie Springs and back again on the 2 tanks of fuel that you're carrying. It's brilliant. Now that, of course, is a very short list of only 6 mods. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of mods that I've done to this car. If you'd like to see those, I've got a 3-part video series that goes into that in great detail. Episode number 1, the exterior. Episode number 2, the interior. And episode number 3, we pop the car up on the hoist and I give you a look at the engine and the chassis. So if you just click up here in the top corner, or maybe it's this top corner, there's the link to the first of those videos in that 3-part series. We're coming out of the zombie apocalypse. It won't be long now before they let us back out and play on the trails. I hope to see you out there. Keep the shiny side up, everybody. Have a great weekend.